In Shintaro, we have the ability to print a number of statements from the tenancy transactions ledger to give to clients or to a tribunal. From the tenancy screen, if we click on the Print Statement function, we can see that there are multiple types of statements that we can select from. We initially need to select what type of statement we want. We have a client statement, which will show all transactions including rent charges and other charges, such as utilities charges. And this is a statement you would give to a client to show what they owe you. We can print a rent statement, which will only show rent charges and payments and is admissible at a tribunal. We can print a non-rent statement, which will show you all of the non-rent charges and payments. And we have an SA rent statement and an SA rent new statement for South Australian clients. So let's start with a client statement. We can see here that the client statement is selected. Underneath this, we see a field for the optional start date. If Eddie has been a tenant for a number of years and you want to print a statement out for him, you probably don't want to print the entire history, say from 2008. You would probably want to print it from the start of the calendar year or the start of the financial year. So let's say we want to print this from the 1st of the 1st, 2015, and we can enter that date in here. If you leave this field blank, you'll print the entire history of his tenancy transactions ledger. Then we have a field for the optional statement text, and this is where we're able to add any text which will appear highlighted on the bottom of the statement. We can also set up a number of default messages in here, so we could choose one of these from our list, and I've set one up saying, please call Shintaro as soon as possible on this phone number, so I will select that. We also have an optional note type, but we're going to leave this for just a moment. For now, let's click Continue. So our statement appears, and this looks very much like a bank statement. We can see at the top of the statement that we have Eddie's details that have come through from his record, and this includes Gillian's name, and Gillian is Eddie's wife. We can see the tenancy start date of the 1st of the 2nd, 2015. There is no tenancy end date because this is a current tenancy. Current weekly rent of $211.92. The date that the rent has been calculated to, the 1st of the 8th, 2015. The date that the rent is paid to, the 4th of the 7th, 2015. And we can also see the balance as at today is minus $298.63. And this figure shows us how much he owes us in rent and other charges as of today. The balance as at the 31st of the 12th, 2014 is the day before the statement start date that we entered as the 1st of the 1st, 2015. And because this is Eddie's first tenancy with us and he had no arrears come over from a previous tenancy, this is zero. We can also see that his final balance is $583.84 in debit. In the main section of the statement, we have the transaction details. We chose the client statement, so we're going to see all of the tenant's rent charges and payments, as well as other charges and payments. We have the date of the transactions on the left, the type of transaction, if it was rent or non-rent, and whether it was a charge or a payment. We see the comments, whether it was a debit or a credit, and the running balance. If we make this statement 2 pages, at the bottom of the last page, we can see our message, please call Shintaro as soon as possible, appear in yellow here. So now we can close that form and we'll have a look at another client statement. Now, let's say that Eddie has requested a client statement from us and we want to print a statement for our tenant, but we also want to record why we printed the statement. We click on the same Print Statement function and leave the selection as the client statement. We won't enter a start date, so by leaving this blank, we're going to print the entire statement. This time we will enter in an optional message by typing in this box, "Eddie, please continue to make your repayments." Then, we select an optional note type, and in this instance, we will select Statement. When we selected Statement, the note title has defaulted to Statement Note, and the note text has defaulted to what we wrote on the statement to Eddie. This is the same message of "Please continue to make your repayments." We could add to this or remove this if we wanted to, and we will add in the note text, "Tenant called to request statement, printed statement." Now, when we click Continue, we can see that Shintaro has produced the client statement, so it has all of the transactions in here, and it's been populated with the comments that we typed into the optional note text. Let's exit out of that now. And in our notes section, we can see that that note has been created here. And if we double click on it, we can see the details of why we printed the statement in here. So we can also print a rent statement for a tenant, which will only show the tenant's rent charges and payments. So we click on Print Statement, and we change the statement type to Rent. We'll leave the start date, and we will add the statement text, "Please call Shintaro as soon as possible." When we click Continue, we see a similar statement to the client statement, but this one is only showing rent charges and payments. We have the date of transactions on the left, the type of transaction, such as charge or payment, the comments, whether it was a debit or a credit, and the running balance. The rent statement is admissible at a tribunal, and if you're required to print a rent statement for this purpose, this is the statement that you will use. Let's close this form and have a look at a non-rent statement. So the next statement that we have is the non-rent statement, and this is for all transactions that are non-rent. If we click on Print Statement and select Non-Rent, then we click Continue, this will give us the non-rent statement. On this statement, we can see that Eddie is in credit for his other charges, and this figure of $253.84 is showing in black, meaning a credit. We can see his fortnightly utilities charges and payments, and we can also see an excess water usage charge on here because this is not a rent charge. Very briefly, we also have the South Australian rent statement and the SA Rent News statement, which we'll have a quick look at now. These are set up specifically for the South Australian Rent Tribunal. These operate differently to others in that they use a real estate model using where rent is paid up to and how much rent is in hand, rather than what the rent balance is. So these are our statements in Shintaro. We will have a look at bulk emailing of statements and bulk printing of statements in a future e-learning video.